I think, hey guys, I think the way that you turn it off is you go up to, nope, it's not working. Shoot. I had some directions here on Google, but it's not quite cutting it.
I'm sorry, this is an inside conversation for folks who aren't with the Department of Education. Some of us are just got off another meeting that's still going on, and the comments from the other meeting keep popping up. Like every 2 seconds, there's another comment that keeps popping across our screens. It's rather distracting. Well, let's go ahead and get started. It is 12:02. Welcome everybody and good afternoon. My name is John Beard. I'm Assistant Director at the Department in the Office of Career Tech Ed. Hope all of you are doing well through these unprecedented times, and hope you and your families are safe and secure in mind and body and finances as well. We are getting to the end of the Perkins 5 applications process for the first time, and want to go through a few things to kind of help you wrap up your applications and answer questions that you might have at this point. So on the agenda, we're going to start with some points about preparing the local application, which is really the last step. So talking about formatting and resources available to finish out that local application. Then we're going to have actually Brenna Bartlett for Becky Krantz talk about the Equity Ambassadors Program. We'll have our partners at the Ohio Department of Education say a word, and then answer any questions at the end. And let me just say now, our next phone call will be June 18th, if you haven't made note of that. Like every time, I'd ask folks to put their phones on mute, and when they have something to say or when they have a question, unmute your phone, announce yourself, giving your name and your organization, and then go ahead. Okay, first, what I'd like to do, though, I'd like to have the state employees on the line introduce themselves. Again, I'm John Beard with the Department of Education. If I could have the Department of Education folks identify themselves, and then Higher Ed.
Michelle Ward from ODE.
Tawana Fields and Pandey, ODE.
Hello, everyone. It's Dan Badea from ODE.
This is Brenna Bartlett from ODE.
Okay, how about Higher Ed?
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Gove, Department of Higher Education.
This is Tony Landis, Ohio Department of Higher Education.
Good afternoon. This is Verda McCoy, Department of Higher Education.
All right, thank you, folks. Let's kind of dive into some things about the local application. We are getting submissions in, and so I want to kind of debrief on some things we're seeing that I want to kind of highlight and make sure we're clear about our expectations and what we're hoping to see from the applications. So I'm going to real quickly go over SMART goals and go over required uses of funds. Then Michelle's going to talk about supplement versus supplant. I'm going to try to share the screen. And let's make sure I got the right one. Let's see. Okay. All right, you should see a slide up there that says SMART goals. And I just want to, I think a lot of people know what a SMART goal is, but one of the things we're starting to see is submissions coming in without SMART goals. So I want to reiterate the criticality of when you, there are two parts of our application process. The first is a comprehensive local needs assessment, and those are tabs A through E. So there are six tabs, A, B1, B2, C, D, and E. And in those, you're asked to list goals, but not necessarily SMART goals. So there you're talking about, for each question, you'll have at least one goal. My phone.
Some of the courses that you just needed a teacher's license to.
But by the time you get to the local application, that's where we really want you to spend your time. And those goals that you select to put in the local application, we want to see those in SMART goal format, something that we can measure. So again, a SMART goal is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's timely. So again, from the blue widget example there, in our needs assessment, we had a simple goal. Instead, the CTPD will add a blue widgets fabricator pathway. And then when we got to the local application, we turned into a SMART goal, and we said it's going to be a blue widget fabricator pathway for 30 participants at East Tech High School, and that would expand us by another pathway by September 1st, 2021. So again, we got to something that's very measurable. You know it when you see it. You know, what we're seeing, I think, is more goals than we'd like to see that are really more directions and process and you know, direction rather than anything that represents attainment. So I was thinking about, you know, my hometown is Cleveland. I live in Columbus right now. But if I'm going to go to my childhood home, my SMART goal would be to get to, you know, 13701 Cormier within 2.5 hours, you know, with no traffic tickets. What we're seeing is more, I'm going to get on I-71 and head north and, you know, stop for gas halfway. So we, you know, I think there's some confusion where folks are being specific, but what they're doing is they're putting what are essentially strategies into the goal. So they're embedding strategies into the goal. That's where they're getting their specificity, rather than giving us something we can measure that's really a destination point. And that's a little abstract. I thought about kind of bringing some examples out, but decided not to. But again, give us something we can measure. Give us an endpoint that we can measure and that you can measure, so that you know if you're attaining it and we're not. It's not a process; it's an event. Okay, that we're looking for at the end of the day. If you have questions about SMART goals, feel free to email your consultant and ask about them, because we hate for you to go through the whole process of, you know, going through a CLNA, and then you get down to the very end, and you've given us something that's, we may or may not understand it, but it's not going to be specific enough for our needs, and we hate to, you know, send back over something that could be fixed with 5 minutes of thought. So, you know, please, again, we're not asking for the SMART goal in the CLNA portion, but by the time you get to the application, that's really where we want you to spend a little more time and diving in and giving us something that we all know what it is when it's done. Okay. Then there were a few questions that came up about required uses of funds, and we've got a tab in the application that talks about required uses of funds. And I think it may be a little bit overwhelming or intimidating, because there's something like, you know, there's 6 main required uses of funds, but then each one is broken out. There end up being 45 or 50 different subsections. So I did post to the comments. I posted 2 documents. One that lists the required uses of funds, maybe in a little more of a eye-pleasing format than what's in our spreadsheet in the document, and the other one that talks about allowable uses of funds. So those are the comments to pull down if you do have any questions. But essentially, for required uses of funds, the law says funds are made available so that you can, 1, provide career exploration, career development activities, 2, provide professional development, 3, provide CTE skills for high skill, high wage, and in-demand industry sectors, 4, to integrate academics into CTE, 5 is to implement programs of study that result in the negotiated local levels of performance, and 6, to evaluate and apply for the funds. So as you're looking at the items you want to fund, I think the first thing you would do is look and see which one of these buckets does it appear to fall into, and then going into that tab and looking within that bucket for what subsection of funding it is. So that you don't kind of get overwhelmed by looking through a spreadsheet that seemingly has no end. There are really 6 big buckets and then some smaller categories within that. So look at the big bucket first, and that might ease a little bit of frustration there. I'm going to pass the baton now to Michelle Ward. And Michelle, some other issues have come up about supplement versus supplant. And if you could address those, then we'll take questions about these issues.
Sure. So just as a reminder to everyone, because I know most of us know about this, but it's easy to forget. We're not allowed to do what's called supplanting funds. And supplanting funds is when you take federal funds in a given year and you pay for something that you paid for in the year prior with using local funds or state funds. So the main thing to remember is that Perkins funds are designed to supplement career technical education, not pay the bills. So when you start thinking about what you're going to spend the money on, first be careful that you're in an activity that's allowable and that is supplementing. And second, be sure that you're not supplanting. An example that we get a lot has to do with salaries. People, you know, they want to pay, they're moving things around. They want to pay for somebody's salary. It's an allowable expense, but they paid for that person's salary or that position's salary last year using local funds. And we can't do that. It's a federal requirement. Does anybody have any questions about what supplanting is, or they're confused about it?
Michelle, can I give another example that came up?
Sure.
We got a question saying we went through our needs assessment and showed a need, and we're already doing it now. You know, we're doing it now. We're paying for it with local dollars. Since it's in the needs assessment, can we switch it out and pay for it with federal dollars?
Right.
And that would be a clear example of supplanting.
Yes.
So, and I think everybody understands it, but the idea is the federal government's giving us money for CTE. They don't want us to back our money out and buy roads or pay policemen, that kind of thing. Again, that we're adding to what we're already doing.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we are proposing to put a person, a staff member who was funded by local funds last year, but we are going to give them a different role that pertains to CTE, is that allowable?
Right. It's not attached to the person, it's attached to the position. Okay. So you want to make sure that the position is a different position. And just be careful when you're writing the position description, and if that person's job is changing, that you make that clear in your paperwork. In the event of an audit, we don't want you to have to pay that money back. That's what would happen. Be outside of our control.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure. Any other questions? Okay, I guess I'll pass it. Is it back to you, John?
We've got Brenna filling in for Becky.
Oh, Brenna. Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Like John said, I am filling in for Rebecca Krantz today to talk to you a little bit more about the Equity Ambassador Program, which was just recently opened. So I'm going to read a little bit and actually go ahead and share my screen just momentarily so that you can see Rebecca's contact information for more information. So essentially, we've started the Equity Ambassador Program to contribute to our work in the equitable access and meaningful engagement space as it applies to Perkins 5 and our work there. What we're asking for is a volunteer from each career technical planning district to serve as an equity ambassador. We do ask that one volunteer, some internal stakeholders, so someone employed within the career technical planning district would be this person. We would prefer that it is someone who is passionate about this work, maybe someone that has already been working in this space or is interested in learning more. To register, you'll be communicating directly with Rebecca Krantz, and there is her email address information here. Our first step in this process is that we've partnered with the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity to provide a number of digital and copy resources. So you'll have access to 3 online courses through NAEP. We're also providing 3 toolkits and worksheet bundles in both a digital format and a physical copy. The equity ambassadors that complete these online courses and work through these toolkits will be able to potentially earn CEUs, and will also receive a certificate of completion from the Office of Career Technical Education. Other benefits to becoming an equity ambassador are that the first 20 registered participants will receive additional resources for their district. to be used however the district sees fit. If there's additional volunteers that are interested in the information, or if you'd like to institute a train the trainer model in which some of your staff would get trained and then kind of continue the training on for the rest of your staff. We're hoping that this role will be able to use as a point person or a resource for equity related questions and conversations as we continue with the comprehensive local needs assessment and local application in the years to come, as well as in wrapping up our submissions for this year. This is also the individual that we'll hope will take place in our future equity initiatives, including our future iterations of the equity labs. And then again, there'll just be a lot of continuing professional development opportunities. There is currently information regarding this program available on our website, including this information with regards to contacting Rebecca. And I believe that is it. The program or these courses can be completed at any time. So we are launching it, but say for instance, you believe that you would have a teacher that maybe is off for the summer at this point, and may not be able to engage in this work right away, might have to wait until early end of summer, early fall. That's okay. But just the opportunity is available now for those who are interested.
Does anybody have any questions for Brenna?
I do have a question. Is that committee is just for secondary, or are you looking for stakeholders from post-secondary as well?
These are for, I guess, our secondary at this point, but it may be a conversation worth revisiting.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, let's move to our partners in higher ed. Anthony or Jeff, you want to take it from here?
Good afternoon, everybody. Jeff Gove, Department of Higher Education. And as you can see from my backdrop picture, I'm enjoying life in the hinterlands, at least in my imagination. As John did opening up the technical assistance call, I also wish you the best of health and mental health included in these trying times. And it's an ongoing privilege and pleasure to be working with the Department of Education in collaboration on the Perkins 5 Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment and Application process. I checked in CCIP this morning, and we in the post-secondary realm have one sacrificial lamb application that has been submitted, and we are going to feast upon that tomorrow, going into detail to see how well that application has met the expectations and requirements. The good news about that application is that there is plenty of time for the review of it. And it's also going to be very, very helpful for us as professional development, as state staff, to go through the application in detail so that we can do all the rest responsibly and in a timely manner. I know that Nancy Luce has asked a question in the chat about if we continue the review process after July 1st, will the approval date be retroactive to July 1st? I will defer that to the Department of Education to answer before the conclusion of this call. But I also want to reinforce to our post-secondary partners, and again, I'm very, very happy and proud of the fact that we've got a number of you on today's technical assistance call, as we have throughout this series. I will send out again before the end of tomorrow, Friday, the criteria and the framework that we are going to be reviewing all of the post-secondary Perkins 5 applications through. It is in alignment with the Department of Education's expectations. I would encourage those of you who have not yet finished the internal process in CCIP, before you check revision completed, through authorized representative approved status, I ask you, I implore you to review the criteria, review the framework section by section, and if you have the content that meets the expectations of that document, your application should have smooth sailing as it goes through the review process. You will save us time. You will also save yourselves time in the event that there are revisions after the fact. So we continue to try to make it as transparent and straightforward for you as possible if you pay attention to what is expected. Again, it's just a heads up that you will receive that again in the event that it got lost in a previous email. But again, it's the review criteria framework. It is comprehensive. Take your time, share it with stakeholders, share it with your leadership team if need be, so that once you get to the finish line and upload everything into CCIP, it is going to be thorough and comprehensive. One last comment. I know that throughout this technical assistance process, we have given you a great deal of information from both agencies, most of it being compatible and in alignment with one another and on our respective websites. There is something that I would encourage you to remember, which is also referenced in the criteria framework. There is additional guidance that the Department of Education sent out in memo form on March the 26th, which is on the ODE Perkins 5 website, and we followed suit dated March 27th with essentially the same information. Additional guidance with additional must-have information included in the application. Most of that is in the form of attachments, and those attachments cover the must-have areas that we've identified as being essential. In the event that you do not want to, and this is more for the post-secondary side, if you don't feel as though you need a separate attachment to upload into CCIP, you want to make sure that you have sufficient data and enough detail in the text of your comprehensive local needs assessment itself. But one way or the other, embedded in the text and or an attachment and clearly identified in those must-have areas, again, will make it easier for us and easier for you in the long run. We, post-secondary, Perkins 5, will have one additional technical assistance call, and that is also on June the 18th. It will be following the last statewide technical assistance call for Perkins 5. We will send out more information about that well before the date of the event. It will be a Teams format, and it will be Tony Landis covering important areas within Perkins 5, as well as other things that are relevant to the post-secondary Perkins community. And unless there are questions, I will turn it back over to John and company.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. While you were talking, I tried to flip my background to something that looked like yours and get that tropical feel. I don't know if it worked. I didn't see anything tropical there, but you did raise a good question, and the question was essentially about the substantially approvable date. If something submitted after July 1st is a substantially approvable. I was glad that you did point out and remind folks of those March memos that are on both of our websites, because in our memos we say that those required elements are the elements of substantial approvable. So substantially approvable is the date to which the grant will toll back to. If you submit those required elements by July 1st, the grant will toll back to July 1st. If you don't, it might be another conversation. So that's the main thing, is to make sure you've got an application that includes those required elements. Because that is our first screen, as we talked about before. That's our first screen. We look through those within a few days of submission, and if it doesn't meet those required elements, we get them right back to you, so you can get back to us with the data that's requested. I hope that answers that question. Again, we want the grant to continue uninterrupted. So please make sure you review those memos and get that information to us by July 1st, and then there will not be a break in. You guarantee yourself there will not be a break in funding. Let's see. I think that is all I had by way of following up, Jeff. But the point I was trying to raise in terms of his background is we want you all to enjoy your summers too, and get your summer off and get to a place that looks like Jeff's background. So, do that work on the front end, and that you got a chance of being here. Because the last thing we want you to be is stuck in your home office when you could be in a place like it's in Jeff's background. Okay. We had a short agenda by today. Leah is off today, so we don't have a Department of Education big picture update. Are there questions you have about anything we covered today or any other topic?
Hi, my name is Jeremy Corbusello. I'm the Career Tech Director at the Columbiana County Career and Technical Center in Lisbon, Ohio. Thank you all for all of the information and technical assistance calls and all the guidance and help. We've completed our local application, and I just want to confirm that the upload process, I have that down. So in the CCIP, I go to 2021 school year, I go to the Career Tech and Adult Education, and then under there, I just upload it as a saved document, correct?
That is correct. And Jeremy, I'm not an expert on that. If Tawana is kind of our CCIP expert. If she wants to chime in there. But what I will say is, if you have questions or need to confirm anything, there is a document on our resources webpage that talks about the submission process and should walk you through pretty much step by step. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to take a look at that. And but you are correct.
I've been looking around on the website. Where exactly is that on the website? And then I can just download that and follow it there, and I don't have to bother anyone.
Okay.
Well, no, you're not bothering us, but I do want to add, I think someone did bring to my attention that the example shows high school that works, but essentially what you're going to do is what you stated, just select upload document, and it will allow you to upload your application in the CCIP.
And Tawana, this is Jeff Gove. I would also remind Columbiana and every other career center and district that has both a secondary and an adult Perkins 5 application, that for Columbiana, for instance, you would upload your secondary Perkins 5 CLNA and application. You also will have a separate uploaded adult Perkins 5 CLNA and application. They are two separate documents. They go through two separate but similar review processes, and they are approved as one motion. But make sure that for those of you who have secondary and adult Perkins grants, that you upload both of them, not just one or the other.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. And Jeremy, I'm going to try to share my screen and see if I want to show you. You asked where on the website it was.
I apologize. I'm just on the phone call because I was on a Okta regional meeting before, so I dialed the number and plugged the code in, so I'm not really looking at a screen. I apologize.
Okay.
Would it be best if I just called? I can just call Michelle Ward after the meeting, if that would help.
Yeah, shoot her email, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that would be best. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you all very much.
My pleasure.
I also shared the link in the chat.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Hi, this is Beth Barrett from Canton City School District, post-secondary, adult ed. And my question is, do we know if budget revisions are going to look the same in 2021 as they do for this year? Just, we have so much in flux right now, and we're trying to come up with a good plan, but I'm just a little bit concerned about how that's all going to spell out. Thank you.
I'll answer for Department of Ed because I think it's really our system. I haven't heard about any changes to the system. Michelle is, I'm sorry, Tawana is more intimately involved in that than I am. Tawana, have you heard of any changes?
No, I haven't. So when you say changes, what are you referring to exactly? Are you talking about system changes as far as how you navigate, or more or less fiscal issues in terms of accounting.
I'm asking about budget revisions, like if we get, into the fall and our needs are different because maybe we don't have students in the building, for example, then what would are the budget revisions going to look the same where we're commenting and moving money, or are we looking at this data dive in depth again?
That's a fantastic question. Let me start, and then Tawana, if you can finish. So there is likely, there's a great degree of uncertainty. So what I would say in your summary of priorities, anything that you would potentially fund as a plan B or plan C, make sure that's in the summary of priorities, because we can only fund things that show up in that summary of priorities in the local application. Okay, so if it doesn't show, we can't switch funds there. So if there's contingency or something that may happen, go ahead and put it in there just to be safe. And then Tawana, do you want to add to that?
Yes, and there's probably something that we need to also discuss offline as well in terms of what that looks like. But yes, you're correct, John. And you can do as many budget revisions as necessary throughout the fiscal year. So please be cognizant of that. And you will work with your consultant if you have questions regarding the changes that you have made within the document. So, for instance, like John stated, if you have identified that is not reflected in your summary of priorities, then that's a discussion you definitely need to have with the consultant to make sure that you're able to complete that budget revision.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's a great question. Anybody else? I should do it like my pastor does at church. Don't go away not standing up. If there's anything you want now, now's a great time to ask.
I don't even know what to ask.
Yeah. Okay, folks, we're going to give you a half hour back of your day. Thank you very much for dialing in. Again, if you have questions after this, feel free to email your consultant, and we'll help you out. And good luck. I think what Jeff said is accurate. It's, the information's there. We try to be transparent. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of materials there, and it can look overwhelming, but just kind of treat it one box at a time. And none of the boxes individually is all that hard or all that difficult. Just give it a little bit of focus, and it should go pretty smoothly. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe, and hope you and your loved ones are healthy, safe, and well. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.